Hello, today I'm going to show you how to shoot this picture. Hey there, Greg Lewis coming at you today from my teeny tiny small home studio. And today I'm thinking I'd like to get a new profile picture for Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and just something silly and goofy. And I thought since I'm doing it anyway, I'd go ahead and take you along on the journey. All right, so it comes down to a few things when you're in a studio. Light, or in my case a strobe, the lens, and the composition and the focus. So let's talk about the light first. My light I have here is about a 3-foot Octagon, Octobox, and powering it is a strobe. It's a Alien Bees 400 watts, which I got years ago for nothing. I'll go ahead and list all the equipment in the comments below insofar as you care. So the lens I'm using today is a 24-70. Now in a full frame camera, that's fairly wide. You wouldn't normally use something that wide, and I'm going to have it on 24, which is its widest setting. Normally you wouldn't really use that for portraiture, but I kind of want it to be close and goofy. When you use a lens and you get that close, it tends to exaggerate features like the nose, which is something you wouldn't normally want to do, but today that's kind of the comical look I'm looking for, so that's what I'm going to do. Another reason why you wouldn't normally use that in a portraiture is it's pretty close to the subject, right? I mean, most people aren't comfortable with that kind of personal space from their photographer. So far as focus is concerned, if you have a camera with a flip out screen and you can just hit autofocus and ding, 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 then you're good to go. But I don't have that. So this is when and this is the only reason I ever use this. Yeah, the only reason. It's no good for exposure, but it helps me focus on things either before a subject gets there or if I'm, in this case, doing a selfie. So I have to put so I have to set up the focus and then kind of put myself, right? See how that works? Okay. Also in this case, I'm going to be using an f-stop of f8. If you haven't seen my video about f-stops, go ahead and click up here somewhere. The reason I'm using f8 is because a couple of reasons. That's sort of the sweet spot of this lens. It gives me the sharpest picture, and also it gives me enough focal depth of field so that I'm pretty sure I'll be in focus, right? I don't need a narrow depth of field because I don't care if the background's blurry because it's a black background anyway. And so for a few reasons, I'm going to use f8. Oh, so far as the shutter speed on my camera, it'll be 180. The reason I'm using 180 is it's the sync speed of my camera for flash. Now, all cameras have a sync speed. It's usually around 180 or 200. You should know what that is on your camera because it's very important. I'll do a whole nother lesson on it. But generally speaking, for these kind of flashes, you can't go above the sync speed of 180, which is fine in a controlled environment like this because you're not going to be moving around a lot. And even if you had the flash low enough, it could stop the motion. But let's not get into that right now. So again, Octagon about 3 feet away, camera f8. Now, you should also know if you have a stabilizer on your lens, and you may very well have one, most kit lenses have a stabilizer these days, turn it to off if you have your camera on a tripod, right? I don't even understand why it screws it up, but it does. Something about the camera trying to stabilize when it's in a fixed position. So turn the stabilizer off if you're on a tripod. And make sure your autofocus is on focus, and we'll do that right now. So I'm focusing on her nose. Yeah. Then once I focus, I'll go ahead and put it on manual focus so that I won't accidentally get it out of focus when I take pictures. So when you're wanting to get the right exposure in a studio, you can certainly just take some test shots and sort of eyeball it. And there's different ways to do that. You've got a histogram in your camera that'll help. That's another video. You can eyeball it, that's fine. Or if you have one, use Lightmeter because they're awesome. All you do with a Lightmeter is you set up the ISO in the Lightmeter, and in this case, it's 100. And if you don't know what ISO is, go ahead and watch my video on ISO right now. Click. And also I've set the shutter speed at 180. And then when I take a picture, a test shot, and where you hold the Lightmeter is dependent upon you, but most people hold it at the right about where the thing is they want to expose, the face, and towards the light. And I'm right at f8. And I knew that because I set it up earlier. Another little bit of equipment you should have before you engage in self-portraits is one of these little doodaddies that lets you stand away from the camera and take pictures. And since I'm so close and it's just gonna be like this, I can just hold this out of the frame and be just fine. And that's the easiest way to do it. So first of all, quick wardrobe change. Okay, sorry about this t-shirt. It doesn't look like much. It's not much, and it doesn't have to be, because really I just want something very simple that'll contrast against the black, and I don't really want anything that detracts from my face. Let's do a test shot first. Move the gal, and I've got a mark on the floor to show me just about where I need to stand, and I'll just do a test shot. Take my glasses. Test shot. Oh. Okay. Exposure-wise, I think it's right on. So let's go ahead and take some shots. Okay. That went pretty well. I tried a few ideas that I wasn't even thinking I'd try. So let's pull it into the computer and see what we got. All right, so I've taken all the pictures, there were about 85 of them, and put them on my computer and found one that I like. Now I should mention that this image isn't really what I set out to do at all, but I like it. It's probably a little derivative. I'm thinking I've seen this somewhere before, but it's fun and I don't care. And I just want something creative and fun to put on my new profile picture for Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. So let's have a look at this. There's some things, of course, right away you're going to notice. We've got a microphone I've got to get rid of, and all this stuff at the top, and that's pretty easy. Now, whenever I take a shot, the first thing I usually do is put it as an 8x10, and the reason I do that is that's just to me what most pictures will probably end up being if you ever want to print them. So it's sort of a habit. Now I understand in the case of Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, it'll pretty much be square, but I like to edit things as 8x10, just because I know if I ever want to print it, that's probably a ratio that I'll want to print it in. And conveniently, I can crop out the things I don't need, like that microphone and the top, and also, this composition. I think, they always say to put things, rule of thirds, but I'm going to have this thing be smack in the middle. And I think I'll actually go a little tighter on this too. Let's see how that goes, to just really bring emphasis to my funky face inside the lens. All right, so that's okay. Now, right away, there's a few things you're going to see that we're going to have to work with. That I can see. I should mention before we engage in this that Lightroom is really great for adjusting exposure and contrast and colors, universally across the image, and especially if you have a whole bunch of images. And I'm going to do that right now a little bit, but it's not really good for things like cleaning up this stuff. So we're going to go ahead and do some adjustments in Lightroom. And when I go Lightroom, I just basically start from the top and go down. And typically, just so you understand, when you take raw photography, it's always going to be flat. It doesn't resaturate it, so it always looks a little flat coming out. So you're always going to be adjusting colors and saturation, like always. So I like the exposure. I think I pretty much nailed the exposure, but I might take up the contrast a little tick. As far as the shadows and the blacks, now a lot of people say to get the whites, you always want a little bit of white in there, and you can adjust that by hitting your Option key or Alt key and going to whites, and I'll tell you what this is showing you is how much white there is in the picture. So you can get just a little bit of white. You always want just a little bit of white in your picture, so I usually adjust that a little bit. And you always want a little bit of black in your picture at least, so I'll adjust this just so I have a little bit of black in there, right? And then Lightroom has a new, new thing called texture that I really enjoy, and I'm probably going to take that up. Now, texture and clarity just beat the crap out of skin, but I don't care too much about my skin. And it brings a lot of character to somebody like me who has a beard and kind of a rough-hewn face. And anyway, you can't really see my face that much in this picture. So I'm going to probably throw up clarity too and really bring out, maybe not that much. Clarity has a lot of strength, and a little goes a long way, but man, if you can just max it out, see how it's taking the midtones and just crushing the crap out of them. And I really like how it does that. And I'm liking how that looks. Now you can see it's over exaggerating some of the texture on my thumb. I think I'll keep it up where it was. I might have to try and fix that. I don't want to try and fix that. You could also take down the clarity to where it was and go, well, let's see. And then you could brush on clarity specifically where you want it, and that's not an unusual thing. You just click on that, and you click on clarity and just pump the crap out of it, and then you can brush that in. I was really liking it right in the lens. I don't have to worry so much about my hands getting all weirded out. Actually, I liked it pretty much everywhere except for my hands. So let's see if this is helping the situation. All right. So there's no right answers, by the way. You need to do what you want to do, and if you like it, awesome. Oh, also you typically want to sharpen up a picture a little bit. I won't really worry about noise reduction. There wouldn't be a lot of noise in this picture. You do usually want to go to your lens correction and click remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections. What it does is correct for any aberrations in the lens. And I think, let's look at vignetting. Vignetting, just to show you, if I exaggerate it, go either way, you can either do a white or black vignette. I just like saying vignette. And you do it a lot to bring attention to things, but the way this photo is, clear, it could be said that my fingers are a little highly exposed, and so that's drawing more attention than I want away from this. So there's a couple of ways you could do that. You could vignette a little bit, which I did, just a little bit in this case. And also, we could use, let's try this. So there's different ways to mask in Lightroom. It's not quite the same thing as masking in Photoshop, but it works. And I'll put this right here. And maybe take the exposure. No, that's too much. You always want to do this just a little bit. See, what I can do is take the exposure all the way down, but it leaves the exposure in the middle. So and there's a feather element in here too. This isn't a lesson on how to use Lightroom right now, but I think I'll take the exposure down a little bit around there. So I'm looking at this thinking, okay. What I still need to do is clean up these spots. Those are really, that's another thing about photography, especially, man, with props and makeup and stuff, things you do not see, you will always see under light. And I do this all the time. I don't think to clean things off well enough. It would have just taken a second to wipe down that lens and I wouldn't have to worry about it. But now I have to worry about it. And Lightroom's just not the place to do that. So what you want to do is go ahead and open this up in Photoshop. And the way you do that is you say Photo and then Edit in Photoshop. So in Photoshop, now, as we zoom in, ooh, look at me. And I'm not going to see, you can see there's a lot of pocks and stuff on my face. And scars of life, and I don't know. Because that part of this image is so small, I'm not really going to worry about that because I'm going to keep it about like this. I'm not going to really, go crazy and zoom in on it. But I do want to clean up things a little bit. And probably the easiest way to do that in Photoshop today is just to get your little, the healing brush tool or the spot healing brush tool. That is magic. And in a situation like this where it's just black on, some white spots on black, it's going to be pretty quick. So you just boom, boom, boom. I'm not going to sit here and make you watch me do all this. I'll just zip through it really quick. All right. Okay, so now I took some time to clean up all the spots on the lens, and I took some time to clean up some of my knuckle hairs. And this is a good time to point out that, you know, if I had really anticipated what I was trying to do in the shot, I could have taken care. I could have used moisturizer on my hands. I could have clipped my knuckle hairs or just not had them in the shot. I could have moved my hand back altogether and not had it be such a you know, I could have moved it a little behind the lens so it wasn't such like right here in my thumb, all I see are, you know, a big dry thumb. And that, I don't really feel like fixing that. I just don't want to do it. But these are the sort of things you need to think about. I could have wiped off that camera lens, and I spent, what, 15 minutes, 10 minutes just clicking around and fixing all that stuff, and it just wasn't necessary. So anyway, I don't love this picture, but I like it enough. I think I am going to use it for my profile picture, so you'll see it coming up. But so anyway, now that I've got it all the way I want it, if you go back into Lightroom, you'll see the one that what Photoshop does is it takes the image right back into Lightroom. If you tab between them, you don't have to see. Now it's saved as the file. This is before my edits in Lightroom with all this gook. See before and after. Before and after. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep that like it is. So at this point, you want to just go ahead and export it from Lightroom. And to do that, you just go ahead and say export. And I have Instagram and different settings to export, and I can probably talk about that in another video. Okay, that's about it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments below. Also, if you have any suggestions for future videos, leave them in the suggestions below. Also, don't hesitate to hit subscribe and like, and please hit the little bell so that when I make new videos, you'll be notified. So thanks again so much, and stay focused.